Hello, when you and I were children, we may have played the same game, standing in a dark bathroom, staring into a mirror, chanting a name. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. We were trying to summon a ghost, a monster, and for most of our lives, that's all she has been. A name whispered in the dark, a synonym for cruelty, a grotesque caricature in a history book. We see the bright, celebrated genius of her sister, Elizabeth I, and then we see Mary, the dark prelude, the failed queen, the fanatic who burned hundreds of people at the stake. We think we know her, but what if we don't? What if the monster we see in the mirror is just a reflection of profound, unimaginable pain? History, you see, is not just a collection of dates and laws. It is a story of people, and people are never simple. They are not born evil, they are forged. They are shaped by love, and perhaps even more so by the loss of it. I want to invite you to do something difficult. I want to ask you to set aside the monster for a moment. Forget the name Bloody Mary. Let's go back and try to find the woman. Let's try to find Mary Tudor, because her story is not just a lesson in tyranny. It is perhaps one of the most profound human tragedies ever recorded. It's a story about what happens when a soul is systematically broken. If you could travel back to the 1520s, to the court of King Henry VIII, you would not have found a monster. You would have found a star. You would have found Mary. And she was brilliant. She wasn't just a princess. She was, as one ambassador called her, the pearl of the world. This was a time of renaissance, of brilliance, and Mary was its child. By the time she was 9, she was fluent in multiple languages. She read and wrote Latin. She understood Greek. She played the virginals, a type of harpsichord, with such skill that it moved the court to tears. She was charming, she was precocious, and she was adored. And most of all, she was adored by her father. It's hard for us to imagine Henry VIII as a loving father, but he was. He called her his greatest jewel. He would parade her around the court, boasting of her intelligence, having her play music for foreign dignitaries. She was the center of his world, and she, in turn, worshipped him, and she adored her mother, the devout and noble Spanish princess Catherine of Aragon. For the first 16 years of her life, Mary knew nothing but security, privilege, and a profound, unshakable sense of place. She was the Princess of Wales. She was the undisputed heir to the English throne. She was loved by her parents and loved by God. Her entire world was built on those 3 pillars: her father, her mother, her faith. And then, in one catastrophic moment, her father kicked all 3 pillars out from under her. We call it the King's Great Matter, a sterile, political name for an act of profound emotional violence. Henry VIII wanted a son. He had become infatuated with a new woman, Anne Boleyn, and to get them, he decided that his 24-year marriage to Catherine had never happened, that it was all a sin, a lie. Now, stop and think about this, not as a king, but as a father. He went to his 16-year-old daughter, the girl who adored him, the pearl of his world, and demanded that she sign a document stating that her mother, Catherine, had never been his lawful wife, and that she, Mary, was a bastard. Just try to imagine the psychological torment of that. Your identity, your name, your very legitimacy, your place in the world, which you never questioned, suddenly declared a lie by the one person you trusted most. Mary refused. She was her mother's daughter, stubborn and principled. She would not betray her mother. She would not betray her faith. So Henry, the father who had once paraded her around the court, turned on her with a cruelty that is breathtaking. He declared her illegitimate. He stripped her of her titles, her servants, her home. He banished her from court, and in the single most devastating act of all, he forbade her from ever seeing her mother again. For the last years of Catherine of Aragon's life, as she was shuffled from one damp, decaying castle to another, mother and daughter were kept apart. They smuggled letters, desperate little notes of love and encouragement, but they would never, ever see each other's faces again. When Catherine lay dying, she wrote Henry a final letter, begging him to be a good father to our daughter Mary. Mary, just miles away, begged to be allowed to go to her mother's bedside, to say goodbye. Henry refused. Catherine died, essentially alone. And what of Mary, the pearl, the jewel? Her father's cruelty was not yet finished. When Anne Boleyn gave birth to her own daughter Elizabeth, Henry forced Mary, the former Princess of Wales, to become a lady-in-waiting, a servant to her own infant half-sister. Think about that. The humiliation, the daily grinding reminder of everything she had lost. Every time she had to carry the train for this new baby, it was a message. You are nothing. You are illegitimate. Your mother was a lie. Your life was a lie. This is where the iron enters the soul. This is the trauma that festers. When you are betrayed by everyone you trust, what do you have left? For Mary, there was only one thing her father could not take from her. The one thing her mother, in those smuggled letters had begged her to cling to. Her faith, the Catholic faith, was not just a religion to her anymore. It was her mother. It was her identity. It was her legitimacy. It was the only solid ground left in a world that had crumbled into quicksand. It was the only thing that was true, and she would cling to it, with the desperation of a drowning woman. Years pass. Henry is gone. Anne Boleyn is gone, beheaded. Mary's young half-brother, Edward, takes the throne. He is a frail, fervent boy, and his handlers are radical Protestants. They turn the world upside down. They dismantle the monasteries, shatter the stained glass, outlaw the Mass. For Mary, this is not just political change. This is heresy. This is the desecration of her mother's memory. She defies them, holding illegal Catholic Mass in her own home, daring them to stop her. She is once again an outcast. Then Edward dies, and the men who ran his government, Protestant nobles, make their move. They know Mary is next in line. They know she will bring Catholicism back, so they stage a coup. They violate the king's own will and place a distant cousin, the teenage Lady Jane Grey, on the throne. They send soldiers to arrest Mary. They are certain she will run or surrender. They miscalculated. They had forgotten who she was. She was not just Henry's daughter. She was Catherine of Aragon's. Mary, now 37 years old, having endured decades of humiliation, does not run. She rides. She gets on a horse and rides hard for Framlingham Castle, rallying the common people as she goes. And this is the miracle. The people remember. They remember the noble Catherine. They resent the arrogant Protestant lords in London, and they flock to her. Her army swells. The coup in London collapses in days, and Mary, the bastard, the servant, the outcast, rides into London, not as a conqueror, but as the people's champion. The crowds go wild. They cheer her. They weep. They shout her name. Can you imagine that moment? After a lifetime of being told you are nothing, the entire world stands up and shouts that you are everything. It must have felt like redemption, like vindication. It must have felt like God himself had reached down and said, "You were right all along." She is Queen, England's first undisputed Queen Regnant. She has won. Her mother's name is cleared. Her faith is restored. This should have been the happy ending. But this is where the tragedy truly begins. Because when you have been traumatized, when your entire life has been defined by a single wound, you don't know how to heal. You only know to fight. Mary has the throne, but her two lifelong goals are incomplete. First, she must save her country's soul. She must bring it back to the true faith, the faith of her mother. Second, she needs an heir, a Catholic heir, to make sure that her sister, the Protestant Elizabeth, never sits on the throne. To ensure the world she is building will last, she moves quickly, too quickly. She repeals all the Protestant laws. She restores the power of the Pope, and then the resistance begins. Protestants who had tasted freedom of religion refuse to go back, and Mary, the woman who had been shown no mercy, now shows none. She sees heresy not as a difference of opinion. She sees it as a mortal poison, a cancer of the soul, the same cancer that destroyed her mother, that ruined her life, that damned her father. And she does what her era and her father had taught her to do. She responds with force. She begins to burn them. This is the part of the story we all know, the Marian persecutions. And we must be clear, it is horrific. Almost 300 people, men and women, were burned at the stake. It was brutal, it was agonizing, and it was a terrible stain on her reign. We cannot, and we should not excuse it. But we can try to understand it. This was not, I believe, the act of a bloodthirsty sadist. This was the act of a desperate, traumatized, true believer. In her mind, she was not a tyrant. She was a surgeon, cutting out the cancer to save the patient. She genuinely believed she was saving the souls of her people from eternal damnation. She was wrong. She was terribly wrong. But her motive was not sadism. It was a misguided, hardened, and terrified piety. And we must remember, this was a brutal age. Her father, Henry, executed tens of thousands of people for various crimes, including religion. Her sister, Elizabeth, would later execute scores of Catholics. Why then? Why is Mary the only one we remember as bloody? We will get to that. But first, we must look at her final, most personal tragedy, the one that, I believe, truly broke her. She needed an heir, and for that she needed a husband. The court arranged a marriage. Philip II of Spain. It was a political disaster. The English people hated it. They feared being ruled by a foreigner. But Mary, who was now 38, who had never known romantic love, who had been starved of affection her entire life, fell completely and desperately in love with him. She wrote him letters, she waited for him, she adored him, and he felt nothing. Philip was a cold, political animal. He found her unattractive. He found England damp and boring. He did his duty as a husband, stayed for a short time, and then, finding any excuse he could, he sailed back to Spain, largely abandoning her. Mary was left alone, humiliated, again, betrayed, again, this time by the love of her life. But then, a miracle. She misses her period. Her stomach begins to swell. She feels movement. She has morning sickness. The physicians confirm it. The Queen is with child. The nation rejoices. Letters are sent across Europe. A cradle is built. Nursery staff are hired. Mary is ecstatic. This is it. This is the sign from God. He has not abandoned her. He is blessing her. He is sending her the heir who will save her faith and her mother's legacy. She goes into confinement, waiting for the birth. The weeks pass. The due date comes and goes. Nothing. The weeks turn into a month, then two. Her stomach slowly begins to shrink. The symptoms fade. There is no baby. There was never any baby. It's a rare, heartbreaking condition we now call pseudocyesis, a phantom pregnancy. And this is not just a medical curiosity. This is the final psychological betrayal. Think of it. Her mind, her body, her soul wanted an heir so desperately. She had been betrayed by her father, by her country, by her husband. Her last, desperate wish was for a child, and her own body, her own mind, betrayed her. It created the illusion of the one thing she needed most, only to snatch it away. The public humiliation was total. She was a laughingstock. Philip returned, briefly, out of duty. She became convinced she was pregnant a second time, and a second time, it proved to be a phantom. This was the end. This broke her. The woman who had survived being a bastard, a servant, an outcast, could not survive this. She died just a short time later, at 42 years old, sick, probably with uterine cancer, abandoned by her husband, and convinced, utterly convinced, that she had failed, that God, her mother, and her faith had all been for nothing. Her last words, reportedly, were about the children she never had. So, who was Bloody Mary? She died, and her sister, the Protestant Elizabeth, took the throne. Elizabeth's reign needed a villain. It needed a dark past to make its own golden age seem brighter, and so the propaganda machine began. Writers like John Fox published his Book of Martyrs, a sensationalist, graphic bestseller detailing every single burning under Mary. It became the most read book in England besides the Bible, and the myth was born. Mary was no longer the brilliant, adored princess. She was no longer the people's champion who rode to London. She was no longer the lonely, abandoned wife. She was simply Bloody Mary. Her story was rewritten by the winners, and that is the version we've been given. History, you see, rarely gives us simple monsters. It gives us deeply wounded people. It gives us people who, in their desperate attempt to heal their own trauma, sometimes end up inflicting it on the world. Mary Tudor was not a good queen. She was not a kind ruler. The fires were real. The suffering was real. But was she the monster? Or was she perhaps history's most tragic victim? A woman who, after a lifetime of profound betrayal, clung so tightly to the only thing she had left that she ended up setting her entire world on fire. That is the story I wanted to share with you, the story behind the name. Thank you for listening. But this is just one story. History is full of them. So I'd like to ask you, who is another figure from history that you believe we have completely misunderstood? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read them.